Tonight, the community mourns amid safety warnings following the death of an elderly fisher. And a pair of councillors looking to block a rate rise in Whyalla.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening. A stark reminder to boaties tonight following the weekend's tragic death of 93-year-old fisherman Stan Afford. His body was found after he went missing off Port Broughton. Sadly, he wasn't wearing a life jacket. Our reporter Rachel Nell joins us now from Port Broughton. Rachel, I guess this tragedy really pushing home the importance of having the proper gear while out on the water.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Fishers down here today are hitting the water with the reminder of the importance of wearing a life jacket. Stan Afford's body was found 24 hours after he is believed to have fallen overboard. All vessels operating in South Australian waters are legally required to carry safety equipment, and it is also a requirement that life jackets are to be worn, a requirement that can mean the difference between life and death. The 93-year-old's family says he had a love for the ocean and fishing was one of his passions since retirement. Around 8:30 yesterday morning, his body was discovered by a family friend in between Port Broughton and Fisherman Bay.
A search conducted by police and others, and this male was located on the mangrove beach.
Fishing in numbers is always encouraged in case of an emergency.
From a safety perspective, fishing where there are other people around you is probably a good idea.
And his death has shocked the local community.
The family especially, and with a little bit more care, it might have been avoided.
Now all weekend locals have been paying tribute to Stan, a war veteran and a long-time fisher. His family and friends say he lived life to the fullest and are thanking authorities involved in the search over the weekend. Investigations are continuing and a report is being prepared for the coroner. Tim.
OK, thanks, Rach. Rachel Nell reporting from Port Broughton there. Investigations continue following a fatal crash on the Augusta Highway at Warnertown on Friday night. At around 5:30, four cars were involved in a pile-up at the corner of Church Road. A 66-year-old man, the driver of one of the cars, died at the scene, and another man was taken to the Port Pirie hospital with minor injuries. The occupants of the other cars were not seriously hurt. And just 2 kilometres away, there was another 4-car collision also along the Augusta Highway. One vehicle caught fire, but the driver managed to escape without serious injuries. No one else involved in the crash was seriously injured either. The Augusta Highway is a notorious spot for car accidents. Police now investigating whether the 2 accidents were linked. South Australia's death toll on the roads now stands at 40 compared to 42 this time last year. Whyalla's council proposed budget could be forced back to the drawing board, with 2 councillors set to oppose a rate rise. The 2017-18 budget proposed a 1.9% increase in rates, with council blaming a cost increase. Councillors Colin Carter and Tom Antonio both announced on social media over the weekend that they'll vote against the rate rise. Both say council will still function without the increase, and the current economic situation would place too much of a burden on property owners. Mr Antonio's decision is a backflip from his position last year, where he oversaw the same increase while he was acting mayor. Mr Carter did not vote last year due to a conflict of interest in his role as head of the City Plaza Traders. The New South Wales Labor Party has responded to last week's state budget, saying it's not a good one for regional parts of that state. They say they have a plan to boost regional communities around New South Wales if elected in 2019, which includes abolishing the payroll tax for businesses to stimulate local economies.
Last week's New South Wales budget came with a couple of new funding announcements for Broken Hill, but the opposition say the rest was old news.
This is a budget that's repackaging, rejigging and rebranding a whole heap of programs. This is not a good budget for regional New South Wales.
But Labor says it has a plan to boost local economies in the Far West, and that includes the abolishment of the payroll tax for small and medium businesses.
Abolishing the payroll tax will help stimulate the economy. It will actually help employers employ new people, but will also ensure that existing employers are able to actively engage with the economy in Western New South Wales.
Mr VEITCH says it's about understanding the economy in Broken Hill and that some businesses are struggling to stay afloat.
This will be a real shot in the arm for the Broken Hill economy.
Labor has shown support for the state government selling their share of the Snowy Mountain Hydro scheme to the federal government, but only if every dollar is spent in regional New South Wales. That would mean $4 to $5 billion.
Every cent from the sale, from the proceeds of the Snowy Hydro transaction will be spent in regional New South Wales. More money for schools, more money for TAFE, more money for water security, more money for roads infrastructure. We have a plan for regional New South Wales.
Mr VEITCH says it was also disappointing that no word was mentioned of how much locals will have to come up with to front the cost of the Murray River to Broken Hill pipeline.
Another budget goes by and we still do not know just how much people at Broken Hill will pay for their water out of the proposed pipeline.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
A grass fire on the outskirts of Port Lincoln had to be contained by CFS crews and local farmers to prevent it from spreading over the weekend. Late yesterday, an uncontrolled fire was reported burning on a property in Boston Bay. Local fire crews quickly responded to the scene, extinguishing the flames. Quick-thinking farmers lent a hand, smothering the flames any way they could. The CFS managed to get the fire under control before significant damage took place. It's believed the fire jumped its containment lines during a controlled burn-off. Residents thankful for the quick response. Two Sydney brothers were caught drink driving in the same car in Broken Hill over the weekend. In the early hours of yesterday morning, a 38-year-old man was charged with drink driving after blowing almost 3 times the legal limit. Soon after, his 19-year-old brother was pulled over driving the same car and also blew over the limit. The two men will now appear in the local court at a later date. Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, taking a dive into the deep to help launch a new local brew in Port Lincoln. The details ahead. Welcome back. The NBN's Federal Government Committee held a public hearing in Port Augusta today to hear the shortfalls and successes of the NBN rollout. The committee heard from businesses and councils in the region, with Port Augusta Council presenting first.
The largest infrastructure investment Australia has ever taken on, a joint standing committee is assessing the NBN rollout. Today the committee held a public hearing in Port Augusta to document the NBN progress from local business and councils.
This is the 7th public hearing for this committee and a Hansard transcript of the proceedings is being made.
Council CEO John Banks was the first to witness to the committee.
It's a great opportunity being an early take-up area of the service. Of course, we're experiencing many of the teething problems that might be associated with a new service, but we're also able to speak to the benefits of having a high connectivity internet service.
Some of the issues raised to the committee included communities on Port Augusta's fringe resorting to satellite internet and NBN support being difficult to find. Committee member Sterling Griff says most issues from hearings in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria relate to the internet retailers.
Many of the issues that we've come across actually relate to the retail service provider, and a lot of those retail service providers are being fairly misleading with what they're offering customers too.
Pauline Hanson, also an NBN committee member, says the region is having less issues than interstate.
Here in Port Augusta you've got mostly fibre to the premises and only about a third that don't have the fibre to the premises, but in general I think people are quite happy with it.
Recommendations from these hearings across Australia will be presented in a report to the government. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln police are seeking vital information after a green giant brand bike was stolen from a local home last week. The bike, which is custom made for young BMX riders, was taken from a property on Henderson Street while the occupants were away. Police are urging the public to keep an eye out for thieves in the area, and if anyone has information about the incident, to make contact with Crime Stoppers. The Friends of the Whyalla Conservation Park have received a $10,000 grant to replace equipment stolen from over Easter. The group says they can now get back to ensuring the park remains in the best possible condition.
When Denise Sharp took a phone call over Easter, she received some heartbreaking news.
The shed had been broken into and they had helped themselves to our trailer and all of our gear.
The heartless theft forced the Friends of the Park to halt their work around Wild Dog Hill. They're now back on their feet, with the state government funding a replacement trailer and new tools. Ms Sharp is grateful for the grant, saying they can now go back to doing what they love.
people appreciate, by and large, what is actually here. But yeah, there's always a percentage of the community that think it's okay to tear down things, ruin things.
Local MP Eddie Hughes has been a long-time friend of the park, doing his fair share of weekend duties. He says the conservation park is an important part of the Eyre Peninsula's environment, and the equipment is a must-have.
The old shovels and the old spades, the power tools are important. It's so there's a whole raft of tools that are used.
The Environment Minister has praised the work done around Wild Dog Hill, saying the Friends' work is crucial in keeping the conservation park in top shape.
A little acknowledgement from the department that the work is valued. We're going to replace all of that, and we want them out back on the park next weekend.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Our Port Lincoln Brewery has taken to new depths over the weekend, launching their new Cage Diver beer. The Beer Garden Brewery took to the water with the local shark diving crew to take their beer into the deep for a very unique drinking experience.
It sounds like the ultimate drinking session, sharing a beer in a cage alongside a great white shark. Beer Garden Brewing braved the seas to complete a beer launch unlike any other.
With the name Cage Diver, it's our big hoppy, sort of daring beer, so that's how the name sort of stuck with that one, being in this region, and then to go and launch it out doing a cage dive was just an amazing experience.
Owners Mark and Janie Butterworth delved beneath the deep to launch their new IPA beer with the help of Adventure Bay Charters.
Got him pretty wet out all by himself, floating away in the cage, so it was just amazing.
The beer garden has quickly established itself as a local craft beer mecca. Demand for homegrown beer has brewers bottling 5 of their assorted ales to keep up with local thirst.
It's been a really busy time for us, and I think people in the EP are really embracing craft beer, just really getting into it.
The beer garden will soon travel to Adelaide to showcase their Eyre Peninsula ales during SA's biggest beer and barbecue festival next month.
The biggest buzz I get is when we get people that come in and say, I don't drink beer. And then they have a taste of their partners or whatever else, and then they come and order one, and it just really opens their eyes to what's out there now.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. When we return after the break, a check of all the local footy action from the weekend as we push into the second half of the season. The details ahead. Welcome back. The Port Lincoln Library is encouraging young children and their families to read 1,001 books before school. Seeing and hearing other people read is a vital step in children taking their first step towards literacy, and the program invites children and their parents to take on the challenge.
Reading a bedtime story to your little one improves their basic literacy skills through seeing and hearing.
The age range that we're going for is basically preschool, but it can start at any age from when they were born, because a key link to child literacy is being exposed to reading even before they're talking.
Taking on the challenge means all family members can read a book with their preschooler and share a meaningful moment while also ticking off another book from the list.
We love reading at home and thought this was a great opportunity to keep a track of the books that we're reading at home together.
And even though some children won't go to sleep until they've had their favourite book read to them multiple times, each read is counted towards the grand total of 1,001.
Just reached the 400 milestone.
Children and their parents are loving the rewarding program.
We've had 81 children sign up, and it's been going very well. We've already had 2 children reach the 1,001 book target.
The program encourages reading through a logbook, achievement awards and a small present once they've completed the challenge.
Every time they hit 100 book milestone, they can come back into the library, get their books marked off and collect a small prize until they get to the end and get their grand certificate and book voucher for reaching 1,001.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Hundreds took to the roads yesterday to run the Pirie Marathon, an annual fun run from Port Augusta to Corn. Dedicated runners started in Port Augusta for the 42-kilometre run, while others took the shorter route.
Starting in the early hours of the morning, marathoners began their run to Quorn. At 42 kilometres, the annual Pirie Marathon is no light jog, with one man from Adelaide's Aberfoyle Park breaking run records.
It was 2 hours, 36 minutes and 12 seconds. Fantastic run from Port Augusta to Quorn in that time. So that was just amazing. People enjoyed it. It's a good family activity, we'll keep going. We'll keep growing it.
Event organisers say this year saw around 375 competitors, with the proceeds from the run going back into the community. With scenic winding roads to Quorn, some shared their way to beat the uphill slog.
The technique's always just work away at the hills and try and enjoy the downhills and just hold your pace for the flats. So yeah, it worked. yeah, it wasn't too bad. Did better than my last time I ran this race, so happy with today.
Some had an eye for competition.
A few people running fairly close to me, so I was just keeping my eyes on them, seeing how they were going. So it was for a competitive run today. There was a really good field of runners.
Others were winners and grinners.
Riley came first, Finn came about 6th or 7th, and I came about 5th.
Just looking forward to relaxing for the rest of the day and, enjoying the atmosphere.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Turning to sports news now, and there was plenty of entertaining footy action over the weekend. Jason Kemp joins us from Port Lincoln with all the local results. Jace, Marble Range, they're pushing into the finals contention.
Yeah, that's right, Tim. Another strong performance by Marble Range in the Port Lincoln League has them sitting second on the ladder. The Magpies were tested, though, just edging out Tasmans in drizzly conditions. The first half saw a majority of goals kicked to one end. Players not used to the wet conditions. Remarkably, it was the first time it's rained during a game this season. Marble Range got off to a flying start, booting 4 goals to nil in the opening term, but a gallant Tasman side fought back to bring them within a couple kicks at half-time. Marble Range took the ascendancy after the major break, making more of their opportunities in front of goals. Tasman stayed in the hunt right until the final siren, but the Magpies were just too classy in the end, winning by 17 points. In the other games, the Ramblers won by a kick over Air United, Yelena punished Cummins by 20 goals, and Tumby Bay won comfortably over Lock. Heading over to the Spencer Golf League, South dominated Cellar Dwellers Port by 166 points, while Sollies edged out Risdon to remain top of the ladder. Meanwhile, Central Augusta took bragging rights over the city, defeating West by 4 goals. Over to Whyalla, North sit comfortably in second, beating the Bays by 5 goals. West continue their undefeated run, accounting for South by 42 points, and Central's push into the top 4, easily defeating the Roos by 36 points. Turning to the Silver City, Central played their first game on home soil, but couldn't get the job done, going down to South by 99 points. While reigning premiers, the Bulldogs showed no signs of a hangover, putting on an 11-goal display over West. Back on the York Peninsula, the Eagles had a 10-goal win over Butte. Kadina got home in a 3-point thriller over the Crows. Moonta won by 11 points over Paskettville, and Wallaroo took home the points over Adrossan. In the northern areas, there were wins for Crystalbrook, Southern Flinders and Uraroo. So there you have it, another big weekend of football for our local leagues. I'll be back tomorrow night to bring you the latest results for netball and soccer. Tim.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jace. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll stay with us after the break. I'll look at how the local weather is panning out for the week ahead. Welcome back. We're turning to the weather now. To start the week, it was fine with 17 in Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Pirie today. Port Lincoln, some clearing showers and 18 degrees and a fine 15 over in Broken Hill. On the national satellite image, cloud moving across from the northwest is set to deliver some scattered showers over the next couple of days. Out on the waters, the winds to 15 knots to the west, the seas just half a metre and mainly southerly. Sunrise tomorrow morning at 7:25. So some shower activity around for tomorrow. Showers in 16 for Port Augusta, but fine in 16 for Whyalla and for Port Pirie. Port Lincoln also with possible showers in 17, possible rain in 15 in Broken Hill. Then looking ahead, Port Lincoln could see some more showers into Wednesday and Thursday, still on 17 degrees all week. Cleve with 16 midweek and also with some passing showers. Woodner also 17 for the whole week with the showers passing on Wednesday. Whyalla could see showers later in the week with 16 on both Wednesday and Thursday. Port Augusta also 16 but becoming fine. Kadina seeing those showers pass over as well. Port Pirie also 16 with showers passing on Wednesday but fine into Thursday. Clare 13 both days also with showers passing. The showers then lingering midweek in Broken Hill, then fine later in the week in the mid to low teens. And that is the local news for this Monday evening. Hope you had a great weekend. Don't forget, as always, you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email. We'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. Until then, I'm Tim Hatfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a good evening. Good night.